Okay, so we switch gears now. Let's talk about unemployment and how it affects the economy. So first, we need to understand the definitions. If you're employed, it means you're working. You could be working either full time or part time or temporary employment. You're employed, you're being paid regularly. You might own your own business, uh, or you might be in an unpaid situation where you're working in a family business. Okay? Either way, of these categories you're considered to be employed. You're collecting pay. You might own the business or you might be working in a family business. The work could either be full-time or part-time. It could be temporary. You're employed. Yeah, that's what employment means. Okay? That's the definition of employment. What about those who are not working? We call them unemployed. Unemployed are individuals who are currently not employed. They are willing and able to work. They're actively looking for work. Call them unemployed. Sometimes it might include individuals who have been laid off from their job temporarily and are waiting to be called back to work. Call them unemployed. So that is the definition of being unemployed. You're willing and able to work. You're seeking employment. In other words, you're actively looking. You're not currently working. It means you're unemployed. And then there's a third category called not in the labor force. These are people who are not participating in the labor force. These are individuals that are both not employed and not unemployed, meaning they're not looking for work. They don't want to work. They're not participating in the labor force. This also includes full-time students, homemakers, retirees, etc. This is an interesting statistic. As of January 2019, the amount of employed individuals is substantially high. Within the labor force, 163.2 million out of 258 million total population. 95 million are not in the labor force or not currently working and not looking for work. That's of January 2019. Here we are in 2023 in October. This has changed. The unemployment rate is very low right now in 2023. It's about it's less than 3%. It's about 3%. Very low. Very, very low. We have more jobs currently available than we do people to work in them. So this kind of shows you what's going on in today's environment. The labor force. How do we calculate the labor force? Represents the total number of workers, both employed and unemployed. We take number of employed people plus the number of unemployed people. That equals the total labor force. How do we calculate the unemployment rate? It's expressed as a percentage of the labor force that is currently unemployed. So to find this, we take the number of unemployed people divided by the total number of the labor force. And we multiply that by 100. Earlier I had mentioned participation, the word participation. Participation are the individuals actively participating in the labor force. This is employed and unemployed people who are actively trying to work. Okay? They're participating in the labor force. We calculate what's called our participation rate. The participation rate shows us the total adult population that is actively in the workforce. Okay? Here's how we calculate it. We take the labor force, amount of people employed and unemployed, divided by the total adult population of the country, times 100. That gives us the labor force participation rate. We have some more statistics. We can see unemployment rates categorized by working adults and teenagers. Okay. Yeah, very interesting statistics. This is as of 2018, so of course this was what we would say a long time ago. Here we are, 2023. These percentages have dramatically improved. For Black, African American, male and female, the unemployment rate has gone down, which is great. For teenagers, all teenagers, unemployment rate has gone down. Excellent. Now, you might say, well, Dr. B, the reason why there are more teenagers working is because there's more jobs available. And I would say, yeah, that's probably true. Congress is considering lowering the working age. Lowering the working age. Several states are taking the working age into consideration and lowering it. It's kind of unheard of. We haven't heard something like that since the 1940s. So why is this happening, you might be wondering? Because we have so many job vacancies right now. The baby boomer generation are retiring. And the generations behind them, there's just not enough people. So it causes what we have right now, which is a large labor gap. We have more jobs available than we do people living in the country. So fascinating stuff. Okay. For women, the prime working age is 25 to 54. I think it's probably a little bit younger than that now, and also a little older than that now. It's what we call the prime ages. Yeah. In the workforce, men and women are employed and unemployed at similar rates. That's mostly true. It fluctuates a couple times here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty close. Wages, on the other hand, that's much different. The wage gap is very real. It's a very real problem between men and women that the country needs to address. With respect to race, so for African Americans or Blacks, the prime working age is very similar to that of whites. There's a slightly higher unemployment rate. Still somewhat true, unfortunately. And of course that also needs to change in the country. And of course, teenagers. Teenagers don't necessarily want to work right away. Understandable. So their unemployment rate's a little bit higher. However, in 2023, I believe that is also changing. Unemployment rate since 1960, looking at this graph, right now that line in 2023 would be below 4%, almost below 3%. We're at about 3% right now, unemployment, which is phenomenal. That means almost everyone's working. It's quite impressive. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I think it'll be that way for a long time. The natural rate of unemployment, the average unemployment rate is usually about 4.6% back in 2018. Right now, it's about 3%. Yeah. Cyclical employment. Sometimes we could call this seasonal employment. If you've ever worked in like an amusement park setting or a baseball stadium or a hockey stadium or other sports stadiums, the employment is seasonal. Right? You're employed for the season, so we call that cyclical unemployment. This is probably close to what it was between men and women. It's a little bit closer now. It's a little bit closer now. The official unemployment rate helps economists to really look at joblessness and how to measure it. Yeah, it helps us to also understand where things are heading. We look at movements in and out of the labor force as being common. You know, individuals might take some time off, long periods of time off to take care of family things. So they're not in the workforce right now, and they come back, right? Yeah, very common, very normal. Unemployment is not necessarily related to job seeker finding a job. When you become unemployed, typically you're looking for work. After a while, you might not look for work. Say, maybe I'll just retire. I'll just leave the market. Really fine. So sometimes individuals don't necessarily find work or go back into work. Sometimes individuals say, not necessarily looking for work that difficult. Sometimes individuals want to collect employment from the government for some time or work under the table, meaning they're not paying taxes. So the reports are not necessarily always the most accurate. Sometimes people who are not working feel discouraged. They might want to work, or they might not. Call them discouraged. These are individuals that would like to work, but they've given up looking for work. We call them discouraged workers. Happens. I would call it burnout, but it's also called discouraged workers. It's important to understand that because we look at what's called the utilization rate. Utilization shows us similar to employment, right? It's are they utilizing their skills appropriately? Are they utilizing their resources appropriately? Utilization. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics has a couple of definitions. Marginally attached workers. This term's been around for a long time, and they call it different things today, right? This is currently are neither working nor looking for work, indicate they want to work and are available and have looked for work sometime in the recent past. There's a term going around now. It's called quiet quitting or something like that. It's kind of like this. Yeah. There's another one now. It's called catching the fire. I don't know, something like that. Fire, whatever. It's all the same stuff. It's just in today's day and age they use different terms. We have discouraged workers, they're marginally attached workers who have given a job market related reason for not currently looking for a job. In other words, they've given up. And then persons unemployed part-time for economic reasons. They want to work full-time, but they settle for part-time instead. Or sometimes they have multiple part-time jobs. Very true. The questions we ask is, how long are people unemployed without work? It depends. In most cases, it's short term. Yeah, sometimes it can be long term. It depends on when most individuals find work. Oftentimes, it's a couple of months. Sometimes it's a year. Sometimes it can be greater than a year. Yeah, it all depends. Uh, it's all relative. It's all relative. The unemployment rate will never be zero. It's almost impossible for it to be zero. It'll always fluctuate, but it's always going to be around the natural rate of unemployment. Again, 2019, this number was about 4.3%. Here we are, 2023, the number is probably around 3%. Now, of course, we have what's called frictional unemployment. This is where people are looking for work that best suit their skills. And sometimes it's hard to find what we call perfect employment, right? It's just, it's hard to find the perfect job based off of your skill set. There's always going to be a few skills that will either be underutilized or overutilized, etc. Now, of course, we also have what's called structural unemployment. Yeah, it's kind of like it's around minimum wage laws, unions, efficiency wages, etc. Structural unemployment. It's just barriers. It's mostly barriers. Individuals looking for work will use various avenues to find jobs. There's obviously a lot of job boards out there, like LinkedIn, Indeed, etc. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them, right? There's a lot of opportunities to find work. Some people might find what's called a headhunter or a recruiter to help them find work. There's all kinds of work opportunities based off of skills and the type of jobs that you're looking for. Some frictional unemployment is inevitable, absolutely. People change jobs for a lot of different reasons. Whether they're looking to change their fields entirely or get into different skills, they want to earn different skills. That's why people change jobs. There's a lot of different reasons, really. Sometimes they change entire sectors, and they're just looking for something else to do. It's important to know that the economy always changes. Kind of like technology, right? So with the advent of artificial intelligence, there's going to be changes in employment to some degree. Some jobs will be taken away. A lot of new jobs will be added. It's very related to improvements in technology. As technology improves, some jobs will be removed, other jobs will be added. Absolutely. It's constantly changing. The government, of course, tries to assist in job creation through various processes. It's important to know that the government itself does not create jobs. The government itself does not create jobs. It just doesn't. Okay, there's a certain number of jobs for each agency within the federal government. The government itself doesn't create jobs. They say that they do, but no, they don't. They facilitate job creation through government policy. The government itself does not create jobs. So you hear them say, oh, the government created 500,000 jobs this month. No, they didn't. The private sector did. The government helped to facilitate it. Government helps to reduce time to find employment. The policy. Okay, they help to facilitate those policies. The government provides certain programs like public training and other government run employment agencies to help individuals find work. They facilitate. If you become unemployed, we have what's called unemployment insurance through the state, district, and through the federal. The state usually comes first. The way unemployment insurance works, is that the amount of work you put in, your employer pays into the unemployment insurance program. It's 50% of all of your wages for a period of 26 weeks. That amount your employer pays into the insurance program. If you become unemployed, that's where those funds come from, the unemployment insurance program, which is 50% of all of the wages that you earned for a period of 26 weeks. That's how much your employer has been paying on your behalf into this insurance program. So, okay, if you're wondering where unemployment money comes from, that's where it comes from. It's designed to protect you the amount of time that you're unemployed. Okay. You become qualified to collect this insurance as long as you've been unemployed for reasons outside of your control, like a layoff or something like that. Helps reduce the hardship by, you collect some of that fund. That amount increases with the amount of time. Yeah. But of course, you don't want to ever rely on this. The idea is that you find work as quickly as you can so that way you can get your wages back up. It's designed to be a measure to help you in the time that you're looking for it. Structural unemployment happens when the number of jobs are insufficient. That's not true in 2023. I promise you that. Sometimes minimum wage laws can actually cause unemployment. You're wondering, hey, well, how's that possible? Employers are required by law to pay a minimum of amount of wages. We call it minimum wage. The higher the minimum wage goes over time means that employers need to pay more. Employers don't always have the money to pay more, which is why it could cause unemployment. You see? Forces a wage to remain above the equilibrium level is a benefit of minimum wage. Higher quantity of the labor supplied, smaller quantity of labor demanded. Surplus of labor equals unemployment. Again, not necessarily true in 2023, but important to understand how minimum wage laws affect employment. Here we have a graphical representation of that. So we see labor demand. This is the number of jobs available. Labor supply, number of individuals willing and able to work. The surplus above the equilibrium point between labor demand LD and labor supply LS and of course the labor equilibrium. Find that area that is what we call labor surplus. That surplus is unemployed because there are more people than there are jobs. That's what labor supply is, or surplus of labor is. Wages, of course, should be kept well above equilibrium levels based off minimum wage laws. Unions also drive up wages, and efficiency wages are also included here. It's also important to understand that the higher the wages are, the higher sometimes the unemployment rate is, because employers cannot always afford to pay higher wages. In that case, they hire less people. Unions have become a large part of the United States over time. They represent about 11% of workers today. It's probably a little higher than that. It's probably closer to 15% now. While unions were established originally to provide employees with higher wages, better benefits, better working conditions, negotiated with the employers for these higher wages, better benefits, better working conditions. Union work, while it's good, it limits the ability for employers to provide these things on their own ability. So there's some pros and cons to unionization. For unionization, the union representatives and the employers negotiate wages, benefits, etc., through what we call a collective bargaining process, where terms are agreed upon. When terms are not agreed upon and the employees working within the union are upset with the employer, they might decide to go on strike. A strike is an organized withdrawal of the employees from the company. They go on what's called a picket line, or etc. In other words, they don't work. Which every strike often leads to reduced production, lower sales, lower profits for the company, and can be very bad for the company, and oftentimes bad for the employees. It's here 2023. There's a lot of strikes going on, surprisingly. Most recently, we have the United Auto Workers are on strike. We have the Actors Guild is on strike. The Writers Guild was on strike. I think that that one's been resolved, but the Actors Guild is still on strike. But yeah, it's fascinating. It's always interesting to see this kind of thing happen. Union workers typically see higher earnings than individuals that do not belong to a union. That's true. But it's also important to understand those primary differences. Unions typically raise wages well above the equilibrium level or minimum wage level. There's a higher quantity of labor supplied, but there's also a smaller quantity of labor demanded, which leads to higher unemployment. The workers are always better off with unions. However, individuals outside of those unions are worse off. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to unionization. There really is. I've been on both sides personally. Sometimes it's hard to see the benefit when you're a part of a union, and other times you can see the benefit. So I don't know. Personally, I'm a little indifferent about unions. That's just my personal perspective. Are they good or bad for the economy? It depends on who you ask. It really does. Uh, some say that they're inefficient, oftentimes inequitable. Yeah, I think so. But on the flip side of that coin, um, they help the people that they're designed to serve. The union uh, employees benefit through better wages, better benefits, uh, working conditions. Sure, absolutely. Hard to find a balance. It is between unionization and management. One of the next things I want to talk about today is called efficiency and wages. Efficient wages is when wages are paid above minimum wage, the workers are healthy, there's low turnover, the workers develop high quality, and they produce good effort. Call that efficient wages. In other words, you earn what you make. Yeah, you earn what you make. So worker health, of course, the higher your wages, the healthier you are. Yeah, sure, because you can afford to eat better, you can afford to be more productive. Lower turnover. Of course, the lower the turnover, the better, because it means there's more stability in the company. The overall quality. The better the quality work, the more attractive it is to other workers, and it increases the quality of the workforce. Of course, the effort that we put in, the greater the effort we put in, the better incentives we generate. That, my friends, is the end of our discussion on unemployment. Any questions on unemployment? Oh, did I do okay? Any questions at all on anything? Your time to ask. Really? No questions? That's amazing. Well, hopefully you enjoyed today's conversation. Then, just to remind you, in the classroom. So we're in week 10. Yeah, time's going by very quickly, as you know. We're in week 10 already. So here's what I need you to do by Sunday night. I want you to use the class time on Wednesday to do this. So two things to do by Sunday, which I want you to do on Wednesday, during class time. Number one, the hypothesis. There's a hypothesis on unemployment. This one, relatively short video, just like you've done before. You'll create one original hypothesis and you'll respond to one of your classmates. That's required for all hypotheses, yeah? So one original and one response to one of your classmates. And then you'll have the quiz on finance and unemployment. So that's chapters 14 and 15. Just like the other quizzes, you'll have 2 attempts. We take the highest attempt into the gradebook. So any questions at all on what needs to be done by Sunday? Yeah. I'd like you to do the work on on Wednesday. Yeah, just to make your life easier. Try to do the work on Wednesday. Any questions at all before we wrap up? You're all okay. Great. Thank you all so very much for your time today. I sincerely appreciate it. I'm very proud of all the work that you're doing. Keep up the excellent momentum. Let's finish strong. Yeah, we got 5 weeks left of class. So it goes by fast, I promise. So thank you all so much for your time today. Appreciate all of you. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can email me, call me, set up office hours. Whatever you need, I'm always here for you. Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.